Hey, welcome to the blockchain revolution. Today we are going to talk about the supply chain. So we live in a very global world where most of us are ordering products on a pretty regular basis that come from various countries around the globe. And the reality is that the supply chain, kind of as a macro tool, is very inefficient. It uses a lot of outdated systems and technology that will benefit dramatically from moving to the blockchain. And in this video, we're going to break down a couple of them so you can understand how key this technology is to speeding up the flow of goods and consequently the flow of money throughout the economy. So the first thing is, let's just sort of make an example of a widget that is shipped from China to Miami, Florida. And there is a lot of people, entities, companies involved in getting this widget from China all the way to Miami. There are also a series of contracts, there's a series of funds, some loans in many cases that are used to get these widgets from A to B. And we're going to break down sort of like the journey that our hypothetical widget takes in its travels from A to B. So, the first thing to understand is that there are many contracts that businesses create and utilize when they move products around the globe. So, let's say we have a manufacturer in China who is making the widget. They get an order from a distributor in Miami who makes the decision to purchase the widgets from this manufacturer. And there's an agreement, a contract that, if we ship these widgets to you, you'll pay for them and receive them and whatnot. Now, one thing that surprised me, because I don't come from a world where I worked in the supply chain, so I didn't really know all that much about it until I started studying this blockchain stuff. But very few companies actually pay for things in cash. Namely, because if you are a distributor who is buying a lot of goods, you don't have the cash necessarily until whomever you sell to gets paid. So the way this generally works is that there's a series of loans that are issued to the, let's say, distributor in this case. It's not always that, it could be a retailer, but let's just use a distributor for example. So the distributor takes out a loan so they can buy the widgets from the manufacturer in China, and that loan will cover all of the expenses that the distributor has to cover, knowing that when they get paid, the loan gets paid off. So this is a way that all of these sort of global shipping entities and products are funded, is through the loan market. So one of the reasons why when interest rates go up, I'm sort of digressing here, it affects a lot of different things. It's not just traditional markets like mortgages and car loans. Like the global supply chain also runs on credit and loans are issued. So a loan is also a form of an agreement, a contract, and using the blockchain, that whole part of the system will become much more efficient. So there's a element to the blockchain that uses this idea of smart contracts. And we have talked about this in some of the other videos. But the idea with the smart contract is that it's a mini computer program that kind of sits on the blockchain and functions like an if-then statement. So for example, you could say, if person A approves this contract, then release the funds to this wallet. So if you imagine this widget going from China to Miami, it's not like a direct flight, right? It's going to go on a barge. It's going to probably stop in multiple ports, potentially be moved from one barge to another barge. It's going to have to go through customs. It's going to have to be, checked off of a checklist so that it arrived in a certain port. So there's a bunch of touch points between this widget and the various people who are working on the supply chain between China and Miami. And those people need to approve things, they need to get paid, and they need to participate in the tracking system. So let's just talk about the smart contracts initially for approvals. So right now, one of the inefficiencies in the blockchain is that when our widget gets to a certain port, we'll just call it port X, uh, someone has to approve or verify, I guess, that this widget is there. And if the widget is there, then release funds to, some party that participated in the previous leg of the supply chain. Well, what do you do if that party is not available? They're on vacation. They went out to lunch. They're busy. The widget then has to sit there and wait for that person to manually approve. And there's a bunch of these manual approvals that have to do with the funding, the confirmations, various elements to it. And every time humans are involved, and humans don't run 24/7, there is a potential for a delay within the supply chain. So, what the smart contract does is it automates that. So, instead of needing a person to approve it, the smart contract could have logic built in that maybe something gets scanned. And that then triggers the smart contract to confirm the widget's here. I just scanned the barcode, and then it releases the funds. So, in our modern world in the West, we do have some technology that's kind of similar to this, like UPS tracking, right? So, if I order a package from UPS, the minute it sort of enters the UPS world, there is this barcode that gets regularly scanned so I can see where my widget is, in its journey. For the most part, I don't work at UPS. I've never have, so I don't really know if there's anything going on behind the scenes. But as like an observer, that looks to me fundamentally as a tracking thing. So imagine you have what UPS offers for the entire supply chain, not necessarily just one private company. And it also has this smart contract capability built in to release funds to the various entities that need to get paid along the way. Because UPS, in my example here, they're generally the one company that is shipping it from wherever I order it from to my house. But now in the global supply chain, it's much more complicated than that, because we're going across national borders, we're going through customs, we're going from different companies that are doing it. So it's like a magnificently robust UPS system that brings in the ability to release funds and to manually confirm receipt and that kind of a thing. Then you have this other element which has to do with loans. So as I mentioned before, most of this world operates on credit. So the distributor has to take out a loan to pay for the widgets to be shipped. And what can be also be automated is this process of the loan being taken out using the blockchain. So this distributor probably has to have some kind of collateral to back up the loan. So if they default for whatever reason, there's something for the loan issuer to take. So let's just say there's collaterals put up for the loan. This loan is issued, and then these funds are going to go into kind of like an escrow account that is managed by the smart contract. So this way, the smart contract can automatically pay all the people along the way, issuing those funds when those conditions are met. Like, it makes it through customs. Something scans it, and it's confirmed that this widget has arrived in a particular port. And so now the whole sort of payment system across the supply chain can be done automatically. You don't need to have a person do it. Now, my research for this a while ago, I learned that some of the inefficiencies in the supply chain are just human error, and that, you have administrative people that aren't necessarily going to not make mistakes. And there's issues where the same bills get paid twice, or the bill doesn't get paid, and there has to be this follow up. So if you think of all the sort of challenges that having a human managed payments would have, if it's done via smart contract where it's automated, it's going to be much more efficient, fewer errors of like paying the bill twice, fewer errors of forgetting to pay the bill, because it will all be done automatically, speeding up the flow of goods and speeding up the flow of money in the economy. And then the sort of last part related to this loan business is that when the funds get to when the widget gets to the distributor, and the distributor then sells it to whomever they are selling to, retailers, I guess, they collect funds, and now the distributor can pay off this loan and, lather, rinse, repeat, and start the whole process over again. So this process of digitizing the supply chain is incredible. Describing it kind of sounds pretty simple, but if you think about a global economy where there are many of these ports that are not modern in terms of tech, that updating these types of things, it's going to take a while. And some of the consulting companies, especially those tied to XDC, I know R3 has been involved, and some of the larger companies like Accenture and IBM have been working on this for years. There's probably a lot of even nuances that we're not even covering in this video, but the potential for digitizing the supply chain is massive. And, unlike when people talk about crypto stuff and digital assets, sometimes it's just looked at as this sort of speculative industry where people are looking to make a return on an investment, or even have applications in consumer friendly things like gaming. This stuff with the supply chain is massive, because, goods are being shipped all around the globe on a daily basis. and there's problems. It's not efficient. Things get lost. Bills don't get paid. Um, Communication can break down. You can have disagreements about the terms of a loan. There's a bunch of things that happen when you think about an industry of that scale, that automating it via the blockchain, where that digital assets make payment and the settlement of those payments is instant, which means that if you are somebody who has participated in the supply chain and you're getting paid for your efforts, you actually get the money like right away. You don't have to participate in this current banking system delay of sometimes days for the funds to settle after the agreement to make the payment has been made. So the efficiency opportunity here is absolutely massive. It's going to take a while for it to happen at a global level, because there are going to be quite a few ports and entities that are need to learn how this tech works and have training for kind of unskilled labor and get used to this stuff. But, you know, in the same way that UPS now scans every little thing, I think it's going to look like that to a lot of these ports around the world. And we'll see some, hopefully, there's cases where technology makes things cheaper. There's a deflationary effect because things just get so efficient, it costs less, that we will hopefully see that the cost of shipping things globally could go down due to these incredible efficiencies. All right, if you have not downloaded our ebook, The Blockchain Revolution, I'll put the description in the put the link in the description. And there's quite a few other videos around the blockchain revolution. The list of those is in the description as well. All right, we'll see you in the next one.